Hi, good morning, everyone. It's our Greengage webinar today, so thank you all for attending. We have some really great speakers for you today. I'm just seeing that more people are coming into the room, so if we just give it maybe 1 minute and then we can start our event. Sorry, everyone's coming in really fast. So I just want to make sure they all catch the start of the event. We'll give it 1 more minute. Right, I think it's slowed down now. Right, thank you all for coming on to our webinar this morning. Our first speaker is Andrew Prowse, who's our CEO. So I'm going to hand you over to Andrew right now.
Okay. Can you see and hear me, Louise? Yes.
I can see and hear you, and your presentation's on the screen.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, hello, good morning, and welcome. And in this first session, what we're going to do is just talk a little bit about what we experienced last year and look forward to the sustainability agenda in 2022. But first, I thought it would be good to look at where we are right now. Because can you believe it? We're right at the end of January already, and it's not necessarily been a barrel of laughs, has it? I mean, we've still got COVID. There's the Russia-Ukraine conflict, rising cost of living, even cake gate now as well. So I hope you'll forgive me for injecting a lighter moment at the beginning of this session. I was looking for some industry headlines in the papers at the weekend, and I was really pleased what I came up with. You need to have a sense of humour, don't you? So here are my 2 favourite headlines, and I can do no better than read what the BBC said. So the first one, a robot vacuum cleaner escapes from Cambridge Travelodge. And the report was, a robot vacuum cleaner made a break for freedom after giving staff the slip at a Travelodge hotel. The automated cleaner failed to stop at the front door of the hotel in Orchard Park, Cambridge on Thursday, and was still on the loose the following day. Staff said it just kept going and could be anywhere. It was found under a hedge on Friday, so a nice happy ending to that one. And what about the second headline? And I should jump in very quickly, just in case you don't know that TWAT refers to those people who work on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And this was a Times report, and it was talking about how so many people have ditched London to work and they're now going back, and that there's going to be a resurgence in people thinking about what they're going to do with their commuting habits. And rather than commuting in every day, if they can get cost-effective accommodation, will be staying up for a night or so. So that could be an interesting development, I think, for hotels and apartments as well. You might find, however, that you're staying in a shoebox. Literally, in the case of the Eco Hoxton Hotel in Holborn, because their micro rooms start with the category shoebox, although you can upgrade to a snug or even a cozy. So let's move on. Let's take a look, first of all, at 2021. I think for many in the industry, it's a year to forget. And if you look at climate change and the environment, it wasn't a very good year either. Because after 2020, there was a kind of a temporary reduction in CO2 levels for obvious reasons. They really bounced back in 2021 to be the highest ever. and global temperatures followed rather the same pattern, and the last 7 years have been the hottest years in history. So not surprisingly, you may remember the IPCC issued a code red for humanity. It can't be more serious than that, can it? And this was a requirement for immediate large reduction in emissions to limit global warming to below 2 degrees. Serious stuff. In better news, well, there was COP26, and there was some useful agreements like deforestation and reducing methane emissions. And also there was some nice developments, like, for example, in the UK, we had the cleanest beaches ever. The Competition and Markets Authority, they announced a crackdown on companies making misleading claims about their environmental credentials. And corporate travel, well, there was a renewed interest, I think, in acting more sustainably, and the start of a greater focus on this that is definitely going to be following through into 2022. And what about Greengage? Well, the COVID roller coaster meant a terrible year for the industry generally, but I have to say we did find there were a lot of companies thinking a lot more about the requirement to get greener. So we were lucky, and we had a year of tremendous growth. As ever, this was our aim, which is to help organisations that want to be sustainable, give them a helping hand. And for those that don't know, these are our brands. EcoSmart is the accreditation part, and Greengage 360 our consultancy side. So I think we've always felt that we wanted to be all about green connections. So we joined the dots between like-minded organisations who feel the planet is precious, but also want to do business together. And so a good example here would be where a corporate that we work with wants to run an eco event. So we can plug them into hotels, venues that can provide the venue, and then we could plug them into an eco-savvy event agency. So that's always been our ethos, to really develop a community. And last year we really saw a record number of hotels, venues, and short stay apartments sign up to EcoSmart. And just in case you're new to the concept of accreditation, this is perhaps a very short description that really corporates are really looking for a sustainability benchmark, which is objective, and for hotels and venues, really wanting to help identify gaps and fill those, and to gain accredited status, which helps them sell more. That's what it's all about. Our aim has been always to be a bit of a market disruptor. So accreditation is brilliant generally, but it is a little bit about a point in the year, a certificate. And our Accreditation Plus concept is really about what we can do to help continuous development. So last year we found ourselves developing a relationship with some fantastic partners, helping them with their sustainability strategies, and also in some cases taking them through EcoSmart accreditation as well. And to complete that ecosystem that we're talking about, we also launched last year the Green Directory, which we're very proud of, because it was all about really scouring the market for innovative products and services that can add value in the travel and meetings sector. So let's turn to 2022, and I think there is room for some gentle optimism that travel, accommodation, events can start to bounce back. I think we are seeing some green shoots, and also I believe that we will see a tidal wave of green activity as businesses embrace the concept more than ever before. So, legacy of COP26 last year, you know, some real stretching targets, and the government taking some good initiatives, and of interest to this industry is the government planning to have a ban on single-use plastic, like plastic plates, cutlery, and polystyrene cups, and also maybe the return of the no deposit bottles that some of us remember from a very long time ago. So I was thinking about what would 10 things be that will have an impact on sustainability in 2022, and these are the ones I've come up with. And not got much time, so I'm going to have to rattle through these a little bit, but I think cost of energy is going to be a real big one. It's going to affect all of us. We know that the prices may well rise in April by 51%. So some people may have to raise prices, I imagine, and I think there's going to be a real focus on the importance of energy efficiency, and that's something we're finding we're working a lot on at the moment, helping people with energy and CO2 reviews. War on plastic. Well, April 2022 sees the plastic packaging tax introduced, which is a £200 per tonne tax for plastic packaging which has less than 30% recycled content. So this will take into account things like plastic bottles, plastic plates, food wrap, disposable cups, even will include some of the biodegradable and compostable products as well. So you're going to need to choose carefully, and we're going to be issuing some helpful guidance notes on this, and helping to identify which of the products which are okay. Net zero carbon. We see this all the time now, don't we, in the news, and lots of companies signing up to this, the concept of pledging to be net zero carbon, and inevitably focusing on their supply chain. So what we found is we're working with a lot of organizations who are wanting to take as their first step measuring their carbon footprint, and then needing some help on the roadmap to get them to zero, which is not necessarily very easy. In terms of travel, it's a bit of a reset, I think, because of the 2 years that have gone past of attitudes to travel. It will come back, I'm sure, will bounce back, but I think there will be a new approach to it. That pyramid is one of the approaches I've seen from corporates, and I think we'll see much greener travel policies, and we'll also see things like carbon budgets as well as cost budgets. I do think that green expectations are being raised as well. I think people are much more savvy about this. They're more wary of greenwash. So we're very pleased. We're kind of in the right place with having accreditation, because I think people are wanting to see proof of things. And I think by the end of this year, we'll have several hundred eco-smart properties, some of them international as well. But if you look at what's happening in or around hotels and venues, there are new expectations, like, for example, electric vehicle charging points. This is a real big one, because in December, 1 in 4 cars sold were electric. So it doesn't take much imagination to realize that people are going to now require this. And we've had some very interesting requests where companies want venues specifically that have lots of charging points. So new builds, we're seeing quite a few of those in 2022. And what I'm observing is that green is built in, is into the infrastructure now. So that will be interesting in terms of new products. And you can see a picture there of the Pan Pacific in London, which is a good example. Measurement and benchmark. there's the old phrase, isn't there? What gets measured gets done. And I think we'll see customers wanting to set targets and benchmark more. So I think we'll see hotels and venues needing to measure and publish probably things like CO2, water, waste, and we can kind of pull into the whole area of accreditation to make it, to kind of give a holistic result. And I think another thing that's going to be big this year is event carbon footprinting. We're seeing a lot of customers saying, well, we'd like to know at least what the carbon footprint is, or ideally to try and find a way to make it carbon neutral. So I think there's some good established tools now in the market. I think there'll be more of those, including something we're going to be launching very soon. Sustainable events are standard. Well, that is something that probably won't involve everybody planting trees, but I do think, like the expectation of having Wi-Fi, delegates will expect an event to be sustainable. And I think that means less plastic, things like recyclable exhibition stands, and probably just spending less, having less stuff around. So we're working with a lot of agencies, clients and venues on what you can do to make events more sustainable. The final two, one of them is around diet, and I think we're going to continue to see less meat eaten in the UK in the diet. So more requirement to have actually not only vegetarian but vegan menus as well. And the final one is a really important one to us at Greengage. You know, waste is such a problem, and in fact, just to quote the fact that in London, the space for landfill is actually expected to run out in 2026, not far away at all. And yet, at the moment, it's about 26% of waste only is recycled. So we have to be much better at recycling. We're seeing quite a lot of hotels and conference venues looking to see how they can adopt a zero to landfill approach. And specifically, as you can see there on those plates, food waste is a huge problem in our industry. I was at an event last week. It was a brilliant event. It was a typical event. I arrived as the last person there. Everybody had had lunch, and I went to the buffet, and it looked like it was completely pristine and full. So probably there might have been 2 or 3 times the amount of food that was required, and that's a problem. But it's something we're so used to, that the need to make everything look amazing. So what we're going to be doing is highlighting the issues and really looking at solutions that unquestionably are going to involve not only venues but also event agencies and clients as well, with a change in expectations. So very excited about that, and we are going to be working with some of the best and most experienced hotel and venue partners. In fact, for 2022, we've created the Greengage Platinum Inner Circle, and that comprises our top tier of eco-smart hotels, venues, and other partners. So there we are. That's a rapid run through some ideas of what I think is going to be important in 2022. And I was talking about the war on waste and the need to up our game on recycling. So I was particularly pleased to have at today's event Matt Crocker, founder of ReWater, to talk a bit more about that problem and a particular solution that he has. So I'm gonna hand back to you now, Louise.
Hi everyone. Matt, if you're here, if you could just put your camera on, that would be great. Yeah, that's all working. And your microphone.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. Matt's actually joining us from Italy, which is just really exciting to be able to say at the moment that, you know, COVID hopefully is behaving, and that we have people who can just come onto these calls now who are, you know, on work and business trips and can still be part of this event. I don't know how much people know about Rewater. I've got one of the bottles here. Matt's got a fantastic solution to a problem. So we're going to run through some information on his solution, really. Matt, really, what is the issue with single-use plastic, and what is the need to act and reduce now?
So effectively, I mean, we're an English spring water company. So traditionally, over the last 20 years, we've produced in glass and we've produced in plastic. We've obviously seen an important migration of sustainability in the industry. As a spring, we looked at cans, we looked at cartons. The main problem we kind of think is people talk about single-use plastics, which is obviously very important. But that's just one of the issues. So Andrew today highlighted the importance about carbon, about waste, about a lot of different things. So whilst we as a spring went, we need to reduce plastic, that's very important, but we don't want to increase our emissions. We don't want to just move from one single-use container to another single-use container.
Yeah,
exactly. So we spent 3 years effectively developing this, which at the end of the day is extremely simple. It's effectively a bottle of spring water, but it comes in 100% recycled aluminium. That's really important because basically this container is made from recycled materials, so it has a low carbon footprint. It can be reused and refilled, and then at the end of it, it can be easily recycled. So the cap and the bottle are both aluminium. Aluminium can be recycled forever, is widely recyclable, doesn't get down recycled. So kind of we think it's a very simple solution, but a genuine solution. So in terms of eco, we think it ticks the boxes. In terms of consumers, they like drinking out of bottles of water, so that's not going to change. When you try and bring in a new solution that involves a large behavioural change, that's always going to cause problems. And we think it's commercially viable, so it can work for various different venues, hotels and events.
And it's refillable.
Exactly, that's part of the thing. A lot of people think it's very strange that a spring water company is trying to get people to refill bottles and not just buy more, but there's over 1 billion single-use plastic spring water bottles bought every year. That's an insane amount. So we generally think that actually you need to give consumers water on the go. That's important. But if you can also give them a refillable container, then at your venue, your hotel, if you've got refill points, they can keep using them and they can take it home with them. So not only is it reducing plastic, it's reducing waste, and you can still kind of get your sales that are important.
And why not Tetra Paks and cans? Why, in your opinion, do you think your bottle is a better solution?
So I guess the key thing there, I mean, every kind of solution has got pros and cons. What I would say is that if you move from single-use plastics to Tetra Paks or cans, what you're really doing is moving from one single-use container to another single-use container.
Yeah.
And things like cans, you know, they have a higher carbon footprint than plastic. So you might be reducing single-use plastics, but you're increasing your carbon footprint. Things like Tetra Paks, they're made from multiple materials. So they have difficulty in recycling. And then if you do luckily have a council that does recycle them, they can only recycle a small part of them. So what I would say is it's, you know, there's lots of solutions out there, but I think you need to kind of holistically look at it and go, well, I'm moving from single use to single use, but what does this part mean? So what I would say with this is obviously you're moving from single use to refill, which is a key thing.
And excitingly, this year you were asked, well, you were chosen as the provider at COP26 for water. Could you tell us about the journey and what that entailed to actually become the chosen solution?
A lot of paperwork.
I can imagine.
Yes. So I think one of the key things that was great with COP is that they obviously, you know, had all the world leaders there who couldn't be seen dead with a plastic bottle or a single-use bottle of water. However, you know, people need to drink, need to go on the go. So they had lots of refill points all around the event, but they also needed to give users a container. Do they give them a plastic cup? Do they give them a glass? What do they do? So we saw this as kind of a hybrid. So it is that it's giving someone instant gratification. It's giving them that bottle of water, but then it's able for them to refill it throughout the event. So we actually approached COP initially 2 years before the event to kind of start the process of trying to engage with them. In true Cabinet Office style, 1 month before the event, we got panicked calls saying, what can we do? So we went through a lot of paperwork. We went through a lot of due diligence with them. As a company, we're signed up to Race to Zero, so to reduce our carbon emissions right down. So it's a lot of due diligence, a lot of kind of paperwork behind the scenes. But from our point of view, it was brilliant to see all the world leaders with the bottles. We've got all our kind of show-off photography on our website. But just actually practice what they preach. So they were talking about reducing plastic, and that's what they were doing. They were talking about reducing carbon emissions, and that's what they were doing. So I think it was a really good piece for us, and kind of gives us a bit of, authenticity to the product.
I think off the back really of what Andrew was saying about reimagining people's expectations, an aluminium bottle is going to be more expensive than a plastic bottle. So us as people who want to live and encourage more sustainability within our industry, we have to be more creative in how we encourage people to look at those options. And you and I might have had conversations about in hotels or at events, how they can have the bottle and then encourage people to use the refill stations rather than giving a new bottle every night at that property.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in terms of price points, it is more expensive than plastic and glass. We have to be kind of upfront about that. However, you're not just selling 500 ml of spring water, you're also selling a refillable bottle at the same time. So it wholesales at about £1, and the SRP for consumers is about £2.79. So there's still, from a venue point of view, there's still a good element of profit that can be made from bottled water sales. For hotels that give away bottles for free, you might. And
they can be branded, can't they, Matt?
They can be branded. We do it for Itsu, for Benugo. We did COP26 branded ones, TGI Fridays. But in the rooms, if you're giving away 2 bottles of water every day, over a 2-night stay, it's cost neutral. Over a 3-night stay, it's you're better off with this bottle. But also from a consumer point of view, if you go into a hotel room and there's 2 plastic bottles of water there, it used to be that was a real positive, and you felt really, oh, look, I've got something for free. But now you kind of also get people going, oh, should there be single-use plastic in this hotel room? So this kind of gives you a solution that you can still give that kind of bottle of water away, but then hopefully the user refills it throughout their stay and ideally takes it home with them. So from a waste point of view, there's less waste left in the venue, but also, like you say, they can be branded, so it can be a marketing opportunity for you as they go.
Yeah. And what sort of other advice could you think for venues or events to reduce their plastic? Is there anything else that you've seen on the market that you could share with our guests today?
I think the key thing is, like, if you look at I'm in a hotel room right now, happily, and I think it's just looking at going throughout the room and going, well, look, should we be having tiny bottles of shower gel? Or a lot of venues are moving to having one kind of large aluminium piece that just pump out. Should you have single-use kind of bits of biscuits? And it's just kind of looking at all these kind of little tiny things that we think, well, could we just make a change here? From a waste point of view, I'm in this hotel room now. I've got the plastic little bottles there. There's glass bottles of water here. There's kind of Nespresso pods over there. There's just so many different types of waste and here. And I think it's just about, obviously I'm going to say aluminium, but I think it's about trying to standardize your stream and go, well, look, let's just try and keep everything the same, which will then help with the recycling, because it's not just about getting rid of plastic or getting rid of things. It's looking at this kind of big circle. Andrew touched on it earlier about the tax coming in about, using 30% of recycled plastic within your bottle. That's great, but it's still a plastic bottle. And the problem we have with recycling is just people aren't honest about it. So if we keep recycling plastic, that's great. But every plastic recycling loop, it gets downgraded. So all you're doing is pushing the problem back 30 years to the next generation. So if we just keep going, let's keep using more plastic and recycling, that's good now. But in 30 years, we're going to have a gigantic kind of plastic iceberg that can't be recycled anymore. So it's using the right materials and making sure that we're not just using recycled things, but doing the right type of it in the first place.
And I think just to touch on things that we've had discussions on before, and it's really important, possibly a takeaway for our attendees, is to not just make a quick change, like you say, to work out the carbon footprint. Don't just say, we're going to get rid of single-use plastics today and maybe move to cans. Actually look at that footprint and ensure, well, you are changing maybe your product, make sure that the emissions are also being lowered. I think, you know, do your research is a really big takeaway, because we see it in lots of companies we speak to where they just haven't necessarily done the research. They've had good intentions, but not actually really check that those good intentions are going to reduce their emissions.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
We've got a couple of minutes, so I might just ask, someone's asked a very specific question to you about what is the branding made of as a guest that is usually a final wrap. As a guest, is that usually a final wrap?
No, so it's all done online. So effectively, this is actually a food grade paint that goes on the bottles. So we can do like a stickered product. But the key thing that we have to be, you know, at any given point, we want these to be, obviously want them to look beautiful. We want people to buy them and grab them, but we need to make sure that everything we do is sustainable. So we literally went through the whole process of making sure that it's BPA free, it's food grade, it's not got any toxins in the paint. But the key thing to kind of really stress is this is 65 grams. So it's 65 grams of aluminium. It's strong, but it's lightweight. The paint on the bottle accounts for 0.00, it's 4 noughts, 0.001% of the product. So when it goes into the recycling, it literally just gets skims off. So we made sure the whole piece is extremely recyclable. The great thing with water is that when it actually goes into the recycling process, there's no cleaning needed. There's no kind of bits of food waste attached to it. So the key thing is that any kind of recycling, when it melts down, it gets skimmed. But this is, like I say, 65 grams of aluminium. But in answer to the question, it's painted online.
Perfect. Matt, we'll leave it there. I think there are a few more questions. But if we've got time at the end, maybe we can come back and answer some of those questions. But thanks so much for joining us today.
No problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Right, now we're just going to head over to Michael Begley. He should be able to turn his camera on shortly. Michael Begley is from Venue Directory. I've known Venue Directory sort of for 10 plus years, and I think a majority of people on this call will be aware of them or be in partnership with them. And he's going to share some of his sort of ideas around sustainability. Over to you, Michael.
Hi there, great. I'm coming from a hotel at the moment because I'm just away from the office. I have a presentation to share. I'm hoping Louise can help me here because I've pressed on the old whiteboard thing and I've got a whiteboard, no presentation. So I'm not sure. There we go. Great, thank you very much.
I'm going to just disappear and I'll hand it to you. Thank you, Michael.
Great, thanks a lot, Louise. So my name is Michael Begley. I'm the CEO of Venue Directory. Many of you may know us and be aware of us, and we've been working with the guys at EcoSmart for quite some time. Sustainability is a really important thing for us. It's a really important thing for me personally. It's something that I've been campaigning for quite some time, and it was a real breath of fresh air for us to start working with EcoSmart to move this agenda forward, and I think it's so important at the moment. But what I wanted to do was just give you a little bit of a background on who we are first, just in case some of you aren't aware of who we are. So we'll try and do that, see if we can get the technology to work. There we go. So who are we working with? So we're a distribution platform, essentially. So we work with all the major agencies up and down the UK. We're really delighted to be able to support all these people you see on the screen here, and we have done for the last 12, 13 years. We provide an application or a direct feed to some of these people on different platforms that we provide to them. But it's basically an end-to-end solution we provide for them. So the corporate can go in and select their properties, add them to their shopping basket, and then one of these agents here will then process that, send out an RFP, and collate the information coming back from the venue, create a proposal. Eventually the event takes place. After that, commissions are raised, client invoicings are raised. So it's an end-to-end solution that these guys provide, and some of you may be familiar with most, if not all, of these clients on the screen here. In equal measure, just to keep you up to date, the ones which I've circled in green are ones which have come on, believe it or not, in the last 2 years during the pandemic. So some really positive news for us, that things have sort of moved forward with these guys as well. So very happy about that. But we don't only just work with agencies, we also work with what we call convention bureaus. And these are people who market and promote a venue. So a really good example there is Conference Leeds. So if you're looking to hold an event in Leeds, you might approach the people in Conference Leeds and say, look, you know, well, this is our budget. We've got 4,000 people coming. What can Leeds provide us? And they will use our application with our venue data to promote the whole city, what they can do, the distribution of accommodation, meeting and event facilities, activities outside of the main event. So, you know, we've got about 16 of those guys that we work with, and that list is always growing. We also work with central reservations offices, so people like Best Western, Live Venue Portfolio. We've got an amazing Food for Change program. If you're not aware of that, you should really look that up. We recently did a blog on this. It's absolutely brilliant what they're doing to reduce food waste, so I'd really encourage you to do that. We recently started work with IHG to create a central reservations team for them, and obviously Classic Venue Solutions, which is part of Classic Hotels. So basically we provide a similar solution to an agency, but the inquiry goes into the central reservation office. They collate the information amongst their portfolio properties and then provide a proposal back. And they work with both agents and corporates on that level. So, you know, really good companies to work with. But believe it or not everybody wants our software. I struggled with that myself. Why would they not want our software? Well, they've got their own solutions, and sometimes we can help them. And we do that with people like Agito and Conference Care Meetings In, where we actually provide the venue data to them in a very pure data form, and then they can display and use that information how they wish. We work with a couple of the big associations as well, people like Hotel and Travel Solutions, also based near Bromsgrove. So Julie Sharrock there, great. We've been working with her for some time. She has her own solution, and we pump our information into there. So if you're a venue and you update your data with us on our online platform, the information will go directly through to one of these guys and update their information. So essentially, we're custodians of venue data, although obviously we do provide some software to utilize that data as best as possible. I just really want to talk about our journey a little bit, what we've been through. One of the big things is research. That's what we've done initially, is just to try and get where we should be. And we do work with a couple of other people. We're going through the accreditation at the moment with EcoSmart, and we're really looking forward to getting that completed. We're also working with venue groups as well. Some of them are not working with accredited brands at the moment because they're just so big. They have their own processes that they put through. Accor is a really good example of that, IHG and Hilton. So we're bringing that data on board as well, and they have their own categories as well. We're also working with the carbon footprint. This is still an area which, you know, I'll be honest with you, we're still working on this one, because for us, it's a bit of a challenge, really. We've used various different carbon footprint calculators, and they come out with different numbers for different events. And, you know, we haven't really, I'll be honest with you, got to the bottom of that. And we're obviously working with Andrew and the team to do that. But what I'd really like to get to is the option for people who are using our platform for meetings and events to be able to get an understanding of what their carbon footprint is by doing that. So, you know, that's something we're still working on. It's something you really want to do, but I just don't think we've got the perfect solution there. We've also made improvements to our own website. Of course, we pulled in all the accreditations, as you would expect. Things like electric charging points, as was mentioned earlier by Andrew, that's become really key. And we're also promoting sustainability as part of our sort of social media dialogue as well. So we're really trying to support the whole process of raising awareness on this. As I say, you know, one of the things we've got to still do is still bring a lot of groups on board. We're working our way through them. It's not really a time thing for us. The minute they give us the details, we can usually get the details on board fairly quickly. But it's actually getting a cross-section of their data. And some of the groups are brilliant at this, and they can produce the information very rapidly. And we can do those ones really quickly. Radisson, for example, was absolutely brilliant. Turned it around in 24 hours, all the venues listed on a global basis, brilliant. Other ones take a little bit longer, but also we are quite particular about some of these in-house accreditations. It would make our life really easy if everybody went for EcoSmart and just went through the process there, because we know that accreditation process is robust, it is audited, and it's built on the right pillars for success with sustainability. With some of the in-house ones, we have to do our own audit, because me personally, I want to make sure that we're putting them up there for the right reasons as well. And it's not, as Andrew mentioned earlier, a bit of greenwashing going on. We're trying to make sure that we pick all that out and just go with what really people can choose. So, you know, we've done a couple of things ourselves. We've changed a couple of processes ourselves, how we work, what we do. We are supporting it, attending lots of shows to spread the message about sustainability and to let people know. And, you know, we're working with people like Carbon Consultancy. We are ILA to try and, you know, get that message out there and to support everybody in the industry. So, you know, that's really key for us. So these are the different sort of things that we're working with. As you can see, you know, there's a real cross section there. We're uplifting all this information, auditing it, and adding it to the profiles of our venues, so that at least that information is available to the buyer, so that they can make an informed decision. That's all our job really is to give them that information so they can make that informed decision. And we're trying to do that the best way we can and encourage more people to do that. One of the ways we're doing that to encourage people, you might say, well, you could just stick the logo on there and that'd be great, is that if you do a search on our venue finding platform, here's an example of that, you see that all these green accredited venues are right at the top. So if you are a green accredited venue, you will be at the top of all search results. And we put that change in the 1st of December last year as part of our commitment to put those venues square and centre in front of the bar when they're making that decision. So it's really easy for the properties to get the benefit from this straight away. We also provide filters on the left-hand side there, which allow the user to narrow that down. Here, I've just highlighted the EcoSmart ones, but you know, there is different ones, as I say, out there. But this really pushes through onto the agenda for people to make the right decision when doing their event. And so with our internal software that we supply to people that I highlighted earlier, we also push the message there. So here we've got the wonderful Y Boston Lakes. Everybody knows that's a fantastic venue, really done some great work on sustainability. And we put this little kite mark on there, which says they're green accredited. This is a default setting across all our distribution channels. All our clients have really welcomed this. They really want this. And it really highlights those venues that have gone that next stage. They can find out a bit more information as well. As you drill down into those properties, obviously you get a lot of information about the property itself, but we also show the different accreditations as well, what they've achieved. And as you can see here, Louisa at Y Boston Lakes is well covered from this point of view, and is probably one of the world leaders in sustainable event venues. And really proud to work with her. It really gives us real confidence, and I talk to her quite regularly about these sort of things, about, you know, what we can do more to push this agenda forward. So, you know, my message out to everybody really is it's time to get accredited. I really think you need to start that process. And, you know, people have asked me what my opinion is on the buying process, and I'm sure that's going to pop up in maybe the questions in a moment. Well, we're sort of tagging all those venues that are green accredited, so we'll be able to produce some stats very soon in terms of, you know, how many venues are booked. I think it's really important to people to start their journey. And obviously, Andrew will have a view on this, but I think it is a journey. And you can get from start on platinum, you know, you're making a conscious effort to check what you're doing as a venue. And you can move along to silver. You might do a few more things in 6 months, a year's time, move to gold, and ultimately to platinum. So it is really a journey that we want to take. And it's also a journey that changes all the time. I mean, I think as Matt sort of highlighted there with the recycled aluminium, you know, different things are going to become more important to us as we go along. So what we set as a criteria now won't be the same in a year, 2 years' time. It is going to be an ever-changing feast of what we have to do to try and get things right. So I think it's really important to even just start that journey and get things moving along, really. And then you've got the support of Louise and the team here at Greengage to sort of grow that and improve that and make that better. And I have to say, they couldn't have been more supportive with our own accreditation. Absolutely brilliant from sort of day one, really. I know Elaine in our team, who is our champion on this, has found the support incredible, really. So, you know, that's what I would encourage you to do. Now, one of the other things that people sort of say to me is that, are people buying meeting space based on the green accreditations? Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't think they are at the moment. And there was a question that popped up there with Matt in Italy and myself here. Did we check their green credentials before we left and booked ourselves in there? Well, I certainly did here, and they do have a very positive environment where I'm staying at the moment. But would that have influenced my decision? Well, it can't really have, because I'm here for another reason. So I've got to be at this property. But having said that, all of our clients, without exception, have asked for venues green accreditation to be uploaded and to be distributed as quickly as possible. So there is a demand for that information. I'm also speaking to corporates, and those corporates have said to me, you've got all that data, can we get that data? So I think there is a demand to know about it. Whether it's influencing buying decisions at the moment, I think, you know, Andrew might have a view on this, but I think there is a little bit of a lag with this, so to speak, is that we need to get everything accredited. We need to get that visibility out there. Then I think it will influence buying decisions, because I think it will creep into the meeting planner's decision process, but more importantly, into the procurement process. And speaking to a procurement manager only a couple of weeks ago, just before Christmas, it was one of the things they were saying is it's not currently in their procurement preferences, but they can see that coming as the workforce that they work with is changing, and the demands for them to harness this information is really important. So, you know, at the moment, I would say now is the time to get the accreditation going, so that you're ready when the decision process really comes down to whether a venue is sustainable or not. You are ready and fully prepared for it. And I think, you know, from a procurement point of view, you know, they will say we want to use sustainable venues. I think personally, and this may be 2 or 3 years off, and this is a very personal decision, they will say sustainable to start with. But in a couple of years, they might say silver and above, gold and above, only platinum venues. You know, those sort of decisions will come forward, really. So, yeah. That's my piece really about distribution of that information, so that, you know, once you get your accreditation, you can see where it's going. I'm happy to sort of field any questions there is, Louise. Ah, that looks like Andrew. Can I be the first person to say in 2022 you're on mute?
Okay. Okay. I think you can hear me now. So thank you very much indeed for that really insightful presentation there, Michael. Really, really interesting. So we come to the. Oh, and by the way, just I did see one of the questions pop up about accreditation. Is it just applying to venues, or is it agencies as well? And the answer is very much it is. EcoSmart accreditation is for agencies too. So we come to the final session in on today's event, and I'm hoping, Paul, you can unmute like I didn't, and put your camera on so we can see you. And while he's doing that, just to introduce Paul, he's editor of M&IT magazine. He's an experienced journalist with a long history of working in the publishing industry, and has become, I guess, a go-to expert when it comes to all things event management related. So I'm hoping we can have a chat now about the future of the industry and what 2022 holds. So welcome, Paul. It's good to see you.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks very much for having me. Great to be here.
Great. So it's probably the first question might be just to ask, are we beginning to see the so-called bounce back? What do you think?
I think we are. And well, I would say that, wouldn't I? I think clearly Omicron spooked us quite a little, well, quite a bit. And it was a bit of a fly in the ointment as we headed towards the COVID recovery, because everything was looking nice and rosy at the end of last year, wasn't it? Everything, I mean, I don't know about you, but September, October, it was a wonderful time to get back to events, and November as well, and kind of everything was going great guns. And then kind of Omicron just dropped out the sky and really knocked us quite a bit. And certainly at the beginning of December, when all those reports of how bad it was going to be and rates of cases and hospitalizations, it was really quite frightening. But they haven't come to pass in the to the extent that many people were saying. And so, you know, it's a little bit of a bump in the road. It's quite a big bump in the road, but we're certainly, I think, on the other side of that Omicron wave now. And so, yeah, so no, we confidence is able to get back up, and there's lots of things that are opening up. Obviously, this week we've got the Plan B restrictions being lifted, so we can have large events again and get back to nightclubs and things like that. And then yesterday they announced that restrictions for travel, so there's going to be COVID testing for travellers arriving in the UK is going to be axed from February the 4th, if you're double vaccinated, that is. And so, yeah, so all of this is just really, you know, kind of confidence boosting, getting back to normal kind of stuff. And but I think there still is a confidence issue at the heart of all this. And whether it's, so in terms of getting back to meetings and events, I think the confidence issue, it's whether companies have the confidence to host these events or delegates have the confidence to attend these events. And I was actually speaking to Kerry McPhee, who is the CEO of the Meetings Industry Association. She just took over there in November. I was speaking to her for the M&IT Talks podcast, which we do, which you'll be able to hear from Friday. Nice plug there. But she was saying what she wants to see from government is a sector-specific confidence message saying, go and meet. You know, it would be really nice to have a minister come out and say everyone should go and meet and hold events. In a similar way to, obviously, in the summer of 2020, Rishi Sunak said, eat out to help out. He said, go and eat. Why can't we have go and meet? And I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that would be such a valuable thing to have. I think we're closer now than ever to government as an industry, and I think over the last 2 years, because we've had to prove that we exist, certainly as a start. But we're getting close to government. But what government wants from us is data. They really need that data to show how valuable we are, and it's the only way they can help us, really, is if we give them the data that shows the value and importance of the sector. And we have the tourism minister, Nigel Huddleston. He's a great champion of business events. And I mean, he gets it, you know. He came to the meeting show, he opened the meeting show, and he spent time walking around on the floor, talking to exhibitors and to visitors. And, you know, he understands business events. And it would be nice if he was a business events minister rather than a tourism minister, because we do get lumped in with tourism quite a bit. But that said, if we are going to build back better, we could do with engaging with government on their terms and giving them the data that they need that will enable them to better understand us. But I think it also has to be a two-way street. So that confidence message from government, it would be a very welcome addition.
Well, and what sort of data do you think is needed?
It's data from all. I think we need to speak to government, and I know that Karen says that she will be continuing to do that. she's taken over from Jane Longhurst, who spent 17 years in the role and has really kind of been in high-level meetings all through the pandemic, speaking to government, asking what they need. So it's a case of finding out what they need and then providing them with it. And so hopefully it will continue this year.
So, Paul, I guess we're into what we might call new normal for events this year. I was just interested in your thoughts about, will we still see streamed events, hybrid events, and in-person events all working together? Do you think we're going to see the phasing out of one or more of those sectors? What do you think is going to happen?
I think in terms of hybrid events, digital events, virtual events, in person, I actually think that one of the best things to happen, ties in with sustainability, was COP26. Obviously, COP26 took place in Glasgow last year and was the biggest business event that has ever happened in this country. And the key thing about COP26 was that everyone agreed that it had to take place in person. You know, there are a lot of people saying, oh, you're having a sustainability meeting, but everyone's flying in from all over the world. Aren't you hypocrites? And the answer to that was no, you need people in the same room to make big decisions. You need to be in person. And that was such a good message for live in-person events. So I think that is true to say of big kind of meetings. There are some meetings that just have to take place in person. But for smaller things, I think people have got used to jumping on to Zoom to do events. So maybe for meetings, you know, like you might nip up to London for lunch and meet someone, and that can now take place on Zoom. You know, like and instead of taking out half of your day or all of your day for one meeting, it takes out half an hour of your day. So at two ends of the spectrum there, you've got some events that have to take place in person, some events that can easily switch to digital, but then you've got hybrid in the middle. And I think we are still working out hybrid, but a lot of people are coming to the consensus that hybrid, if you're going to do a true hybrid event and make that end user experience at home, actually, you know, kind of TV production standard, and have a live experience as well, that is a lot of work. And that I think people are moving away to a certain extent from offering that full hybrid experience, because it is really quite time consuming.
Yeah. And Paul, in terms of sustainability, we talked a lot about that, of course, this morning. What's your view on that and its role in our industry?
Sustainability, it is something. So I joined M&IT in 2013, and ever so that's nearly 10 years. Sorry, just realised. But we've been talking about it for a long time. And I remember when I started, it was something, you know, there were sustainable events, kind of. There was like a show. There was some people were kind of like hinting at it, but it was seen as like a nice to have, not a need to have. And I think now it's seen as a need to have. It's a hygiene factor. Yeah. I think that is the big change, and I think that's happened over the last 2 years, especially given the seismic changes that have happened. You know, we've all been sitting at home, kind of having much less of a carbon footprint, and the idea that when we get back to events, we're just going to go back to the old ways and how we did things seems a bit of a non-starter. I think people are already looking at, you know, changing the way they travel to events, and the idea of slow travel is something that's taking off. You know, I saw a couple of people, you know, traveling to IBTM in Barcelona in November, December, by train, and it looked fantastic. I was really jealous, to be honest. You know, get the Eurostar over to Paris and a train down from there, and I was like, that looks fantastic. But obviously not everyone can afford or has the time to do that. So it's an interesting point there. But with sustainability, like I say, we've been talking about it for a long time, and I think now, as we get back to events, as the confidence kicks in, as events start to ramp up, we need to start putting those words into action. And it might begin in small ways, you know, it's like maybe not putting beef on the menu at your events, or rather than completely overhauling the menu. But I do expect to see action on sustainability taking off, and people doing things like never before.
And maybe just as a final thing, Paul, if you were kind of hoping for some nice headlines for the industry this year, what sort of thing would you love to see happening?
Well, first of all, I'd love to see the like I say, the government coming out with a positive go and meet message. I think that would be a really welcome addition to things. I'd also like to see something that I've not touched on yet. I was going to mention the supply chain crisis, because I was speaking to someone yesterday who was saying that basically it's a bit of a perfect storm, because we've got all these people who the supply chain used to be there. The supply chain that was there for events and meetings as we knew it is not there in the same way anymore. And people maybe on the tech side of things, event production side of things, the freelancers that we used to go and run our events and just get in on an ad hoc basis, are they still there? Do you know that they're still there? And there are, I mean, someone I was speaking to yesterday was saying that, you know, Google and Netflix have just opened up big studios in the UK, and a lot of people have gone to work there. So the freelancers, maybe they've gone to find full-time work, and get more kind of, you know, just more reliable work, because they can't afford to rely on events in the same way. If events might get cancelled at short notice, or might not take place at all if there's another, you know, if there's another variant turns up, so that's creating a problem. There's also corporates are maybe getting a bit worried about organizing events for November, December time in case there's another winter wave, and we have to stop, or events are restricted in some way in November, December. So, and with January and probably February being wiped out as well, we're kind of condensing a lot of events into a much shorter period of time, and that is just going to have a big effect on supply chain and costs and everything. So I'd like to see something done about that, and I don't know what that is yet.
Yeah, but it's a very good point. Very good point. Well, look, Paul, thank you so much for that. I wish we had a bit longer, but of course the minute hands shot round the clock, and we're at 11 o'clock. So I'm going to need to finish there. But thank you so much for joining us today, and for a really thought-provoking interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks very much.
Andrew, I think we've overrun. So I was going to say, maybe if anyone has any questions, we have tried to answer them as we've gone along, but feel free to put them in your box, the chat box, and we'll get some answers to you, and we'll share all the questions as well after the event when we send the recording out. But thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and thank you to Paul, Matt, and Michael, and you, Andrew, for being our speakers today. Have a good day, everyone.